So I don't make differences. The opportunity for, let's call it enlightenment, is always there for everybody,
Uh-huh.
for everything. There is. I like the thought of my native teachers is that the awakened mind is one mind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations, which is hosted through Conscious Awakening Network. I'm Patricia Walls, and I'm honored to be your host. Cosmic Conversations is airs every Tuesday, as most of you here already know. And what we do is we share some intimate conversations with visionaries, teachers, healers, artists, and forward thinking souls who are actively shaping this new earth that we're in right now. So, Conscious Awakening Network, or CAN to some people, is a transformational media platform devoted to accelerating spiritual evolution, activating your highest potential, and also expanding global consciousness through summits, webinars, and also exclusive programming. CAN brings together a powerful collective of guides and wisdom keepers, and who are supporting multidimensional awakening of the embodied truth. So today our guest is Luke Blue Eagle, and he's running a few minutes late. We're going to give him a little more time. He is a Métis shaman from Canada, of French Canadian Pawnee, and also Abenaki lineage. His life has been dedicated to the healing of humanity and Earth. He studied with many elders from several First Nations in Canada and also in the United States. And he's been working as a traditional spiritual counselor, teacher, and healer since 1987. He's written 8 books, composed 8 albums of therapeutic music, and created 9 aromatherapy perfumes. He's also an internationally recognized expert on crystal healing and has taught in many countries, North America, Europe, and also Asia. So, because he is on a different time zone, perhaps that's why he's running late. I'm not quite sure, but we're going to be excited whenever he is able to log in. And I have emailed him, and he hasn't answered yet. So, what shall we talk about? What would you guys like to talk about until he comes on? I can tell you that we've got some great programs going for Conscious Awakening Network. We have, oh, there's Luke. Hi, Luke. Let me invite you as a panelist. People are excited to see you today. Don't forget to unmute yourself, Luke. And I just want to remind everybody that's here, this is a podcast and you are welcome to ask questions. And so at any time, if you have questions for
Do
Luke,
you hear
please
me?
do. Yeah, we can hear you. So if any time you
I
have
can't hear you.
questions, oh, you can't hear me. Okay. If any time you have questions for Luke, please do put them in the chat, and or he'll be able to see them as well. So I am going to let him know.
Hello?
I'm going to let him know that we can hear. Can you hear us?
No, I can't. I've been having trouble connecting. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
Internet and computers today have been hell all day. It's just not my generation and not my training. It's just difficult. I'm so sorry that I'm late. I've been trying to connect ever since 7:26.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're here and we are so happy to see you. I was so excited that you were coming today that I already introduced you.
Very good. Thank you. And I'm so sorry for this delay. It's been like that all day. I guess it's starting new things today. It's the new moon.
Right. And it's the year of the horse that's starting, isn't it?
Pardon me?
I believe it's the year of the horse that's starting as well.
Yeah, and I'm of the horse. Yes.
Yeah, so everything is increased. The frequencies are increased. But we're here and we are so excited. I've told everyone to please put their questions in the chat so that if they have questions for you. And again, I've already introduced you, and so the floor is yours, dear brother. What do you want to share with us?
Well, right now, my main activity, I've been teaching. I lost track after 35 years. I don't know right now how long I taught. Many countries in the world, Japan, Mongolia, many European countries, Mexico, US, Canada, of course. I'm from Canada. And yes, I was awake very young. And but traveling to teach and dealing with people today is really a challenge. I've noticed that when you get to a certain level, um, the light is disturbing to many people. And so I'm devoting my life right now to the creation and production and distribution of my shamanic perfumes. This adventure started many years ago, over 25 years ago, when I was invited by Native people to treat them in intensive care in hospitals. And so in intensive care, I would come upon a person who was on oxygen with many monitors on her body, electronics, closed windows, a lot of medical personnel. You can't start burning sage in this place like that. And because of the electromagnetic pollution, because of all the monitors plugged into the person, my energy treatments was not as efficient as I usually would like, especially without any purification at all after an operation. So after two events like that, I was sitting with friends who make essential oils, and it came to me, why don't we try with essential oils? And cedar was already on the market. The white sage that we had a lot of at that time made beautiful oil. Sweetgrass doesn't make any oil, or in such small quantities that it's just not feasible. So I instinctively put it in alcohol and let it sit for a lunar month. And it took on the color and the smell of the sweetgrass. And so I mixed this with the sage oil and the cedar oil, and I tried that. And I already had something. There was something happening for sure. Smell was awful. It was like cat piss. Actually, it was not nice because of I put too much sage actually, and the relationship with the cedar and the sage wasn't working. But that's when I realized I was making a perfume. And as a coincidence would have it, a few weeks later, I was talking to a good friend in France who knew this excellent French perfumer whom I called, and he invited me over. And I was teaching there a few months later. So there I was in his place, and he taught me the whole procedure for creating and producing. And you know that French, it's the capital of the world, Grasse, Ville de Grasse in France, capital of the world of perfumes. And so I came back with that, and I worked for about a year and a half. And on perfecting this formula, and because it's a real perfume formula. And when I finished, I was astounded that it was like 10 times more efficient than smudging. And so I said I need to make this available to the people. And also I needed to make it good for all people and good for ceremony. So I added tobacco, and I added lavender for the white people. I added incense, frankincense for the black people, and I added sandalwood for the yellow people. And and then I added ceremony. I combined 4 different shamanic techniques to really encode in a powerful way the liquid, which actually becomes crystalline. So you actually, when you use it, if you think of a clear intention, it will really amplify your intention. I'm known internationally for my work with crystals, So and so that first perfume was born. At that time, we called it liquid smudge. And after a while, they thought, it's not poetic enough for all the work that's gone in. So I found the Algonquin word for peace, chiam, to put on it. So this is let's see.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually have the syllabics, the high north syllabic language, the writing on that. And so I put it on the market, and I was astounded with the response of the public. I really was amazed because I really intended it as liquid smudge, but people started coming in with a whole bunch of stuff. Like the first retail manager I presented it with called me the next day and said, I put some on my pillow. I've had 20 years of insomnia, and I slept like a baby, and this other boy had problems with his dogs, and poof, the animals like it. That's not common.
Yeah, because
They
they're very
don't really
sensitive.
like essential oils or perfume, but they like this.
Uh-huh.
And so a school teacher that would calm the whole class it was their magic perfume, When the class would get agitated, she would do this and they would all calm down. So I was getting results, and within 2 years, it was in 10 countries, So, and the name of the company is Invocation, invocation.ca for those who go online, for Canada, CA. And so after 8 years, it got too big for my basement, So I moved to the Huron village, not far from here, the reservation. I'm not Huron, but there was a place available there, and that's when the ladies. That's for the first time when I had full-time employees, and the ladies there, they said, we want something that's more feminine. And so with my friend, who's a perfumer in France, because I was very new to this perfume business. With him, I devised a second sacred essence, which is called Miwa. I don't know if you see that.
We can see it.
And that's, of course, they're all blessed in ceremony and with intention. So the intention of the Chiam is purification, of course, and then also protection. So the healing can happen, and then that the person can come out into the world with their gifts. That's the programming that goes into the encoding of the Chiam. This was to attract beneficial energies and favorable circumstances, and the main ingredient is sweetgrass. We devised the sweetgrass extract. As far as I know, we're the only ones with this extract. And because the reasoning is that when you purify your energy field, you will create holes. It's natural. Some things will just run away. And of course, the universe does not tolerate emptiness, and so things will want to fill in those gaps. And by using this perfume, and you use it like a perfume, it's beautiful. You just spray it on your wrists, and you can put some on your neck, and it will guarantee that the energy that comes in will be beneficial. And some of the ladies, they prefer to vaporize it in their energy field. I prefer to use it like that as a perfume. And then I created the 5 elements. I did, except for the wind element, because I had been working on it for many years and because I have weak lungs. So the wind element is something that I'm very proficient with. So that one is entirely my formula. And then, but with my friend in France, I went with him and we did the other 4, the fire, the earth, the water, and what we call sacred sound in our tradition, which is the ether or the infinite space in which the other elements dance. All the ancient traditions of the world have a five elements tradition. Ayurvedic have this, Tibetan medicine has this, Chinese medicine is well known. They all have five elements. We had five elements, of course, too.
Right.
So, and so I have devised actually, when I do very powerful healings, I use all five in a very special way. And people, they use this whenever they need, balancing in that specific element and the emotions that are related to those elements, of course. And in the process of doing all this, I remember at the very beginning, I called my friend in France, says, give me a few, formulas to work with, so I could, practice my scales, on this new art form. And he was unable to give that with natural products. These perfumers, the high-end perfumers, most of their ingredients are one molecule synthetic fragrances because it's much easier to work with. So they're actually more than 50% of their formulas are usually chemicals.
Yeah.
And that really lit up a light bulb in my mind because I know that chemicals are not good for you. And more people are becoming hypersensitive. They can't even tolerate another person in the same room wearing perfume because of the chemicals.
Right.
So I started working with that. And because I think the people need things to wear that are natural and beautiful. And I was getting more and more into I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and I've written a lot of poetry and books, of course, mostly about spirituality. But this is really, I was getting into the, aesthetics of it. And of course, in my tradition, we communicate with the plants. So I was doing things that they didn't really understand. The first one I created called Graces. It's for ladies of a more mature age. We call them experienced ladies. It's very rich perfume. When I had him smell it, he looked at me and says, how did you do that? There's 40 ingredients in there. He just couldn't get over it, So, and I've continued, and I created another one for young ladies, and I have 3 more that are coming down, nearly finished. So we're going to create a new company actually a division of Invocation to promote all natural perfumes. They will be encoded, of course. It has to go with it. This is very a proprietary technique that I've put together. What we found out with time is that by crystallizing the liquid, we don't need any preservatives. It stays in a crystalline form. It doesn't move. The only thing that moves in the Chiam is the chlorophyll from the sweetgrass. The sunlight will change it from green to yellow. That's it. It doesn't change the scent or anything else. And with the extracts, we don't have that problem. So yeah, it's quite an adventure, and I can stay home and go to the office to work. So I like that because it gives me a lot of time for my spiritual practice, which this is my main focus in life is the spiritual practice, because I remember this one teaching that actually elder would say that if you don't have spiritual practice, you're inferior to the earthworm, because the earthworm is doing what it's supposed to do in the wide web of creation. It's helping the earth, it's helping many creatures. But a human being who's not doing any spiritual practice is actually a destructive force in the world.
True. Yeah. Well, where do you see these essences going? What do you see as the future?
I aim the whole planet. We need this vibration today. These are frequencies. They're carrying a frequency. They're carrying a vibration. Actually, where it takes a long time. This Chiam one takes 14 months to make.
Oh my.
And it rests for a whole month in this sacred enclosure where my music plays 24/7. So it's really carrying on multiple levels, multiple dimensions, very precise frequencies that are going to help the world, even if they're not aware of it. Because a lot of people today are really swimming in a sea of ignorance and inconsciousness. I don't know if that's a word. They're not consciously aware of who they are and what we're doing here. Because spirituality has been, portrayed as something sectarian and evil. And a lot of the religions have been a contribution to that, of course, because they did not use the religion in the right way. That's why I mostly speak about spirituality than religion, because it's not the same thing in my mindset. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's very, very important that we're here to evolve. This is our life for all of us. Because if you're not evolving, you're swimming in a sea of pain all the time. You're always stressed out and you're always in pain and you're going to grow old and you're going to suffer and you're going to die. There's no other way to look at it. But if you have spiritual practice and you start understanding what your soul is all about and how many times it's come upon this planet and where it can go, we can all become angels, immortal, eternal angels, all of us. But it takes a lot of hard work to get there. But when you're there, it's unending bliss. So this is our path for all of us. And so it's very important that people awaken. And I find this is a good way because the fragrance, the scent, the olfactive is linked to the most ancient brain in human beings. So it'll touch them deeper than anything else. And if it can carry a vibration, a frequency that will help them to awaken to some part of what their soul has come to do here, because all our souls are here to evolve, to grow. We're all spiritual beings. We're all immortal, eternal. But the thing is that the pathway in a physical body is a painful one, especially on planet Earth. Planet Earth is one of the hardest ones in the galaxy, really. But you choose it because you want to evolve faster. So it's a good thing,
Yeah.
Yes, if everything goes well, you're very content to be a potato couch, you're a couch potato, I think you say. Anyway, so, you don't grow very fast. And so I remember this study, super interesting study that was done by this man who repeated the experience 9 times. Oh, I don't remember how many times. I'm not good with numbers. But anyway, he put a bunch of rats in an enclosure where they had everything, as much food as they wanted, perfect conditions, perfect heat, everything perfect. And at the very beginning, this community of rats really thrived. They really, really thrived. But after a while, there was a class of males that were always pruning themselves and were not at all interested in the females. And other males started to be very dominating and starting attacking everybody. And the natality went down. And within a short period of time, they all died. All of them. He repeated the experience with mice, the same thing. If you're living perfectly comfortable all the time, there's no challenges to your life. You just die off.
Right. So
look at this society where everything is given to them on a spoon. And what are we seeing? People physically are much inferior to their ancestors. Emotionally, the families are all broken up. Couples have a lot of problems. Mentally, the kids know today they don't have any kind of memory, and they're not able to reflect by themselves. And spiritually, it's the desert. I have this book at home about this very incredible Lakota or Sioux, Oglala Sioux, I think he was, native writer, Vine Deloria Jr., who wrote a book called The World We Used to Live In. And he described in a very big book everything that the Europeans saw amongst the native people that they could not understand. People flying through the airs, people mending a broken bone in 30 minutes, people reviving a man that's been dead for 12 hours, people teleporting. They're here and all of a sudden they're at 10 kilometers, and a whole book of different events like that. Every community had their shamans, because they were living in nature, and in nature, everything is real. Everything is true. It's only in the world of men that you will find lies. I've been talking a lot.
Do you want to do you want to answer some questions?
Sure.
So in your work, you speak about reconnecting humanity with nature as a source of truth and healing. Do you want to touch on that for everyone?
Well, it's really obvious. Everything in nature is real. Everything is true. There's no lies in nature. A wolf won't lie to you. The water won't lie to you. The sunshine won't lie to you. The trees won't lie to you. All of it is real. And it's reflecting the laws of the universe. So if you're living, like when we do the rites of passage for men, when they come to puberty, they're sent out into nature for anywhere from 4 days and nights to 9 days and nights, and with no food, no water, no sleep. And and during that whole time, they have to be crying out, what is my purpose? What are my gifts? What are my totems? Who am I? Which is the essential question. Why am I here? Why have I come to Earth? And so the world around them will really talk to them with only words of truth. They'll have their vision, or they'll have the visit of a bear or a deer or birds or whatever. I went through it several times, so I've experienced this. And then they come back into the community, and the elders they'll help the person to make sense of it all. And usually they get a new name because they're not the same person anymore. They have come into being an adult. In today's world, where they don't have rites of passage, you have this funny period of life which is called the teenager years. Okay, where people are kind of crazy for from 12 to 19, like people do crazy things all the time, the teenagers. But in native culture all over the world, not just in America, any people that live in nature, they have rites of passage, and the boy and the girl go from childhood to adulthood in a few days. They're mature. When you've gone up to the mountain and you've stayed there for 4 days, 4 nights, with no food, with no water, with no sleep, and alone for the first time in your life. People are very alone in our society. Native society, people are always together, alone for the first time in their life, and everything around them is speaking to them. That's very scary, and they have to master themselves. They have to learn control, but they've been taught from childhood about this control. One of the things you'll notice in Native society, the children don't cry a lot, hardly ever. The children are well behaved, because they learn that they're a part of the community, and if they're disturbing the community, well, it's just not helpful. So it's such a different way of life, and this is because they're living in nature, that everything is different. Like another example, in today's world, people are having children, but they're alone with their children. They have to, get a stressful life, go to work, many hours in a day, give their children to people they don't know, to strangers during the day in the schools or whatever, and come back. They're tired. Their children are not happy because they've been with strangers all day and they want a lot from their parents now, and their parents are just too tired to get it from them. So it's not healthy. It's not a healthy way. But in native culture, as soon as the children come to a certain age, guess what happens? The grandparents grab them. They want their grandchildren. And so, the whole community is there. If the children can run around all over the place, everybody is responsible. They're living in a community. So the parents are much more free, and they have a lot more time with the ladies for the lady, and for the men with the men. So, they can talk. Ladies talk about the men, and the men talk about the ladies, of course. So,
Yeah.
they resolve their issues amongst themselves. So when they come back together, they're in harmony. It's hard to describe. But what happens in nature is that you're living with the laws of the world, with the laws of what should be. We've experienced it 4 times already, because our history is a lot older than civilization. Civilization is 5,000 some years. It's really recent. Our history is 130,000 years. And in that time, we've seen cycles of humanity. And when humanity comes to places of power using technology, the world, every time there's a great world purification. The last one was described in the Bible as the Great Flood, with Noah's Ark. But there was more before that happened. It cycles about 27,000 some years up to now. Now it's a different time. The Mayan calendar finished on the 21st of December 2020.
11?
No.
2011?
Yes. So I was in Mexico with the Mayan people there. We did ceremonies. And everything was, they have the most precise calendar you can imagine. They call them timekeepers, because it's not an arbitrary time slot like the second and the minute. It's based on the stars. They're stargazers, and they know the times of the universe applied to the earth. So their calendar is very, very precise. But we've entered an era now where there's nothing. There's no prophecies for what's coming. We don't know what's going to happen. And we're seeing it in the state of the world today. People have grown so far from nature and so dependent on technology. I know, like, I have this friend who teaches in schools, and she's so distraught. She teaches nature. She brings the children out to nature. And she's had children who have never been in a forest. And that's something quite extraordinary, to not experience life, how in a forest everything is in communication. It's like an ecosphere of people speaking, because they're all talking, these trees. Just not with our talk, but they're talking. Yeah. When you'd experience this, I think it's beyond words, but I think a few of the examples as given right now will show that nature is the way to go. And there's something else I need to add to that, is how are we going to achieve that today? And the solution has been given, is that every family should try to acquire 1 hectare, 2 acres of land, 10,000 square meters of land is a hectare, and grow their food, build their home, have their family, and try to have other independent family owned, we call them family domains, in community around them. And if you live off the land, well, you're going to protect that land. And that's something that's, of a family size. We can't tackle the big problems that are there today. There are just too many of them, and they're too big. But you can manage 10,000 square meters and grow your food there. So you'll be protecting that ecosphere, and then we will heal the planet one family, 1 hectare at a time.
So you're also a teacher, right? And are you teaching? I didn't look, so pardon me for this. Are you teaching about the fragrances, about using essences in healing, or what is it that you're teaching?
I taught for over 35 years healing and spirituality of the native people of North America,
But you're not
indigenous.
actively doing that right?
I'm retired from that now. Yes.
What about your books, though? You're sharing that knowledge in
Yes,
your
I've
book?
got one book translated. I've written 8 books. One of them is translated into English, First Nations Crystal Healing. That's been translated into English. They also have another one of my books, which is the Totem Animals, Inner Traditions that Bear Company has it. But I don't know if they're going to do something with it. They signed a contract, but I haven't heard from them for a very long time. I don't know what's happening with them. But I have another one that I've translated. I'm perfectly bilingual. I've written my books in French. I'm in Quebec province in Canada from French Canadian parents. So my maternal language is French, and so but I'm perfectly bilingual because I went to school for my first 8 years for the first 6 years in English because I was born in Saskatchewan, the central province of Canada. So no, I'm not teaching anymore. Sometimes I'll do some healings for friends, close people, and some people online from time to time. It just happens, whatever. But like I said at the beginning of the show, of our talk rather, is that I find it troublesome. People have so many issues today, and at a certain level, I want to deal with the light, always with the light. Yeah. So I don't want to deal with a lot of people right now. I've done it for a long, long time. So I've done my part. I've done my. Now I want to reach a lot more people, but with the frequencies of sacred fragrances.
So let me ask you, with the fragrances, are you combining those with the crystals for the matrix of the frequencies? Are you using crystals in
Yes,
your
they're
work?
encoded with that energy.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. And you've traveled in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I've taught many places. Uh, I had a lot of fun in Mongolia because half of the population are still living like they've lived for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
They're nomadic herders. So their shamanism is still strong and pure. It was wonderful working with them. That's powerful stuff. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, the word shamanism comes from Mongolia, doesn't it?
No,
It
it comes
doesn't.
from
Where do you think
Siberia.
it? Oh,
The word
Siberia.
shaman comes from Siberia. I think the nation is called Swank, something like that. And
Uh-huh.
the word initially meant a person who is born twice.
Hmm.
Because there's 2 kinds of shamanism. There's the hardcore shamanism, which is pretty much universal with all nomadic peoples, and there's what I call initiatory shamanism, which is with those nations that have permanent spiritual structures, like the Hopi Kivas, or the Cherokee Mounds, or the Mayan pyramids. The permanent structure is agrarian communities that do agriculture, and so they work with spiritual practice rather than the hardcore shamanism, which usually entails some kind of death. That's why they call it the person who's born twice,
Yeah,
because
I
you
know.
project you if you have a near death experience, your spirit is projected into the spirit world, then comes back into your body. And
Right.
so that you learn what it means that you're a spirit and communicating with spirits. You know, I've had both experience trainings. Yeah.
I know here in the US, we have a tendency to refer to it as neo-shamanism because it's a mixture of a lot of different things here. It's not really true medicine anymore. So we do have a question for you from Beck. Beck is in Australia. And she says if we're measuring the Mayan calendar with today's 12-month calendar, it says that time ended in 2012. We talked about that. But she said if it's calculated on the 13th moon, the natural moon cycle, then the end of the Mayan calendar should be 2040. You have any
I'm
knowledge or
not a
references?
specialist. I'm not, I haven't been trained in the
Yeah.
stargazing. I can't answer that question.
Okay. Well, maybe she just wanted to share her wisdom on that.
I've been getting vibes from Australia since we began this talk.
Yeah.
I don't know
She
why. Mm,
probably because of Beck.
mm.
Uh, she's one of the sisters that has traveled with me a lot. She's an artist and an intuitive and medium. So she's quite incredible. And oh, she was also a presenter at some of the summits. And so you've been a presenter at least one of the summits that Conscious Awakening Network hosted. Yeah. What else do we have? Let me see. Does anyone have any questions? Um, so you've described a lifelong goal as contributed to the healing of humanity and the earth. So when you look at the next generation of healers that are coming in, are people who are connected to their higher consciousness and awareness, what gives you hope about them?
We're all on the same path. Um, so I don't make differences. You know, the opportunity for, let's call it enlightenment, is always there for everybody,
Uh-huh.
for everything. You know, there is. I like the thought of my native teachers is that the awakened mind is one mind. There's actually no difference in their mind between Christ, Jesus Christ, and Buddha mind. It's the same mind. It's one mind.
Right.
It's universal mind. So it's something that is impossible to describe. You can't convey that with words. It's beyond concepts. But it is something that we can awaken to. And so all people have this at their core. It's just that they haven't awakened to it. And that's what we need to do, is to become aware and conscious of the moment, you know. And if we're really conscious and aware of the moment, then we lose our attachment to things, you know, and we don't lose time investing ourselves in idle talk and accumulating material possessions and getting a lot of money and whatever, you know, because you just find it futile considering that you're better off when you're doing nothing, because
Yeah.
that's the essence of meditation, is it not? That's the original word.
To be in the
The
nothingness.
word
Yeah.
in the Tibetan language for a yogi, yogis that, would go into a cavern and spend their time doing spiritual practice. Well, the word meant the one that is doing nothing. Actually, they're not doing nothing, but they're not involved in worldly occupations.
Right.
Yes.
So how do you maintain your own balance and daily practice after so many years of service? What is it that you're doing for yourself? How are you
Many
honoring
hours of
yourself?
daily practice.
Say it again.
Many hours of daily practice.
Yeah. Are you open to sharing what that looks like?
Oh my God. Well, of course, the breathing and stretching exercises. I've got a couple of yoga practices mixed in with that. Heart yoga, and then the basic meditation of my people, which involves a lot of visualization and singing and ritual, and then the sacred dancing, of course, is very important. It actually resembles Tai Chi. It's not the same thing, but it's the similar. I know the Tibetans have something that resembles that too. Actually, I think all the great traditions have something that's called sacred dance, and then there's. It would be too long to go into it all. There's working with the deities. The shamanism is one thing that's all shamans are different, but one thing that is common to all shamans is communicating with spirit, with the spirits.
Mhm.
So that is a part of practice that is, well, it's very, very, it's beyond words, but it's illuminating. It's very nourishing. It's very helpful. I'm trying to put words on something that really is beyond words. But anyway. Hmm.
How are you feeling about sharing a song with us? Are you open to
Oh,
sharing a
yes.
song?
Perfect. That's a good idea. Can I get a sip of water? I didn't think of bringing some, and I've
Oh,
been
of
talking a
course.
lot. Before I
Yeah.
sing, I'm going to take a bit of water.
Yeah. And I do have someone does have a question whenever you're open for that.
Yeah, we'll get a question.
While he's doing that, we must be expecting storms here because my dog has all 100 pounds of him, has managed to fit himself between me and the wall. It's so we must be having some storms coming. So the question is, how do your two essences that you shared with us, how does it work? Her question is, how does it work? How and when is it used? And can you use one by itself or do you need both?
I use the Chiam at least, four times a day, at least. And the way I use it, I spray it on my hand,
Mhm.
put my hand together, and I bring my hands all around to clear away my energy field. And then I offer it to the four directions, the earth and the sky and creator spirit. And then I do whatever it is, practice that I'm going to do. Before I began this talk, I sprayed in the four corners of the room so that I could have a clear space because we had a very, very big day at the office. It was kind of stressful, lots of things happening at the office. And so I cleared the space, I cleared myself, and I was ready to talk. I more rarely use this one, but a lot of people, it's recommended. I have such a powerful practice with so many years of. I was really, really young. So I don't really need to summon the good stuff. I've got enough of it. But many people find it very helpful to make sure that what comes in after purification is good, either to spray it in their energy field or use it as a perfume. Yes.
Okay, good. Well,
So
thank you
let's
for answering.
share um, a, um, a heart chant.
Sure.
Ho, 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 Hak dich neina, hak dich neina, Hani konne, Tishna, Hak Tishna, Hak Tishna, Hani konne, Hane, Hane, Krishna, ho, ho.
Thank you very much. It was beautiful. Stacy was asking, do you, and you've already answered this, but I'm going to tell you the question. She asked if you actually teach indigenous shamanism. She said that she can't find many indigenous people who actually know and connect to spirituality. It seems that they perform, but don't seem so connected to spirit. I reminded her that you don't teach anymore actively, but you do have students. So are any of your students carrying on your teachings?
Yes, there are some that are still doing the work. Yeah.
Good.
Uh-huh.
And how would she
I,
find them?
yes, it's a delicate. One of the main characteristics of civilization is the eradication of shamanism
Yeah.
and of all indigenous people.
Yeah.
Indigenous people
Assimilation.
all over
Yeah.
the earth have suffered extreme persecution. And the ones that have suffered the most are those carrying those sacred teachings, because those are the ones who have the most power. So they're targeted first and foremost. So it's delicate to, what I've noticed is that when you have really charlatans, they get by great. Nobody bothers them. But get a person with true light, you get attacked a lot, you know,
Yeah.
powerful attacks. Yeah. So I don't give out any names.
Okay.
The indigenous shamanism, which is what I've trained and what I taught for many years, is my own, of course, color of it, because we're all unique human beings, and uh, there's been a lot of destruction. So I've, there are parts missing in Native tradition because of it was a great genocide here in North America. And so sometimes I had to get some parts of it from some other nation, just the way it was, because there was parts missing. And so it is kind of a synthesis. And also, we are very close to the Tibetan people. We're actually the same nation. It's identical DNA. We have prophecies And the Tibetan have prophecies that we are one people and that we would meet again. And it happened. There's an article on my blog, blueeagle1.net, about this, about that meeting. And so there's elements of my practice that come from that because they come from the Bon shamanism. You know, the deep, there's a lot of practices that are shamanic practices in Tibetan Buddhism, the tantric practices are. Anyway, I'm not really habilitated to talk about that. I don't have that kind of a legitimacy, but I understand it deeply. So yeah, it's difficult to find today, but the universal teacher is still there, and that's nature. You don't need to go very far. You just need to go and sit for long periods of time without people in nature. And then you'll see the truth because you'll have only truth around you. And your true nature will thus emerge. And with that emergence, you will start to understand who you truly are. And that's where the spirit lies. It's not complicated. It's just you have to get out there. And you have, I've brought many people out on Vision Quest, and it's very difficult for them. They haven't been trained to identify nature as something that amicable, that is gentle, that is good, that is true, that is pure, that's hold the truth. They just see it as a hardship, and because they're not only their minds are not trained, but their bodies are not trained. They're not used to the conditions of getting colder at night and hot in the day and bugs and whatnot, They just don't know the country. They just don't know nature. They're not used to it. So it's difficult for them, especially in the night, especially the young people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my Nakota grandfathers, very, very well known. I won't mention his name, but very well known. He's crossed over now. And he had a lot of people coming to him who wanted to heal and grow. And so he started offering, we're going to call them Vision Quest, but they're not really Vision Quest, but he started offering these hamglechas in the Lakota way. He started offering them. He had a teepee that he put up and also a tent for the non-natives, and he received a lot of criticism for that. They would stay in the teepee for the 4 days, 4 nights, and he had educational things for them. He would take them through ceremonies, yes, purification, prayer, but his methodology was that most non-natives, like you say, weren't used to spending time out in nature. They weren't used to being there with just a blanket and the chanupa and, no food or water. And so he took a different approach with them, and it was very successful. It was very healing, but he also received a lot of criticism for doing that. And so it is a consideration for people who are drawn to indigenous ways, because we are all indigenous at the core. It's just that society has taught us other ways. We've become dependent on air conditioning and heating and a bed and cars to get around in and electricity. And so the majority of us aren't used to being in nature and connecting with nature. So for those that are of that that makeup, they have to start small. as you said, they have to sit with nature for extended periods of time, allow their body to become used to the elements, and to align with the frequency of clean air and earth and plants, and they have to remember how to be honoring of all life. So it is a journey, but it's a journey of remembrance. And we're grateful to people like you who have shared your path, who've shared your knowledge and what you've gained, and has been shared with you. So thank you. Thank you for coming on today and sharing with us, for singing that beautiful song to us. Do you have any last words for us?
Yes, it would be to share silence with people. That's another way of communicating with spirit, is rather than when you're with family and friends, rather than idle talk all the time, just try to sit in silence so that you can reach unity together beyond words, beyond concepts.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's very close to the native way of living, that we don't talk so much. A lot of the spirituality was never spoken. You didn't need to speak it. It was communicated telepathically
Right.
in the silence. So learning to live in the silence is in itself a very powerful practice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today for Cosmic Conversations on Conscious Awakening Network. I hope that something that Luke shared with us today resonated in your body, mind, spirit, and your inner knowing, not just as information, but there were a lot of things that were shared that were unspoken, a lot of frequencies, a lot of healing vibrations. And I invite you to explore our upcoming summits, our free webinars. The podcast here is free, and also some transformational programming created to support your awakening and embodiment. And if you feel called to deepen your connection through energetic awakening, then I warmly invite you to join Monday night transmissions with our founder, Sheila Seppi. You can find that at sheilaseppi.com. So I'm Patricia Walls, and this is Blue Eagle, and this has been Cosmic Conversations. So until the next time, until next Tuesday, please stay open, stay sovereign, and keep listening to the wisdom within yourself. And if you would like to share the replay of this one, it's available on YouTube under the Cosmic Conversations channel. And Luke, I'll share that with you in case there's somebody that you want to share your talk with. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you the next time.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.